was an important process, because RRCs from 2018 to today, how many years now? It's over 6 years. A time that was not being, was not foreseen. It was initially, the whole process was to take us 3 years and 6 months. But as we speak, it has doubled, putting both the pre-transition and transition period. And a transition period seemed not to be ending, because so far now we have got 2 extra extensions, and possibility there will be even a 3rd extension. Last time was a roadmap, and this time is really RSS extension. So knowing that if RSS was really that effective and efficient in its implementation, we would have already moved away from talking about RSS. So I believe that the context of RSS, we know that based on the report given by the Artigonu last time, given to the citizen and the partners and the stakeholders, is that only 10% has been implemented so far. So we can see the progress is not significant. If you look at the years that has been taken, really if it was to be an exam, it would have been a very bad failure. And with the unification, which is the key, that was supposed to be have been finished in the first phase, 8 months, then 100 days, then 3 months, is still not moving that much so far. Based on the reports, it is only 6% of unification process has been achieved, and not completely in a satisfactory manner. So this will tell you that like RSS is just RSS, but not really like achieving the intent, because we didn't just sign the paper for the sake of signing it. It was signed in order to resolve and meet certain activities that as it has been laid out in the document. So with this, if parties would see not the need, then it would be a very unfortunate thing. But otherwise, I would say that the Tumaini role should be something distinctive, that when the leaders sit, it is not like a replacement, because yes, there is a document that is there which is called RSS, with provisions that are good. If they were implemented by now, we would have, moved very far from talking about peace issue, would be talking about developmental issues. So Tumaini here would come in and say, look guys, let's do analysis. Where have we got stuck here? And then these are the gaps within the RSS, that things that are the challenges that are not making the progress, that are causing the agreement not to progress, not to make an impact, okay, or not to meet up to a satisfactory or in a significantly it intend. Then Tumaini should come in as a platform to do that analysis and say, okay, here we are stuck, then this could be a solution.
Right. And talking about Tumaini, for it really to succeed, many people are saying it requires political will, it requires commitment, it requires leadership. So how best do you think can parties deliberate, especially on the remaining protocols, the issue of responsibility and power sharing?
Well, the problem, I love the way you put it, the power sharing. The problem that we face as South Sudanese in most cases in this peace talk, is when we approach the issue on the basis of we seeing the power sharing, and the minute we just see, yes, and when we just come with these issues of power sharing, already you let go of the need and the responsibilities. You first think of me, me, Party X, me, Party B. But if we were to look at it of the real issues that are at hand, and then we define the issues and we say it genuinely, because what is a political will? Political will should be driven by the mandate. What mandates you and the reinforcement that are available. So when these things, the mandate are being made and reinforcement to those mandates are put in place as guarantees. Before I see you as William, I mean as Emmanuel, or see me as Sarah, we put those things regardless of seeing who should be there, then it becomes more easily. Then when we get in there, whether we like it or not, it is not about our will, but it is about the mandate that we have, adherents that are attached to this mandate. It will force us. But when we come with the eye looking at the power sharing, then I see where am I as Sarah. You will see where am I as Emmanuel. Even when we come as to negotiate in good faith that we need to move our country forward, we can see the problem there. We will no longer see the problem. We will see, what do I have? What is it Emmanuel intending to take from this? And then war begin, like, the tension begin to arise. And then we will have no, our platform or the space in which we could actually talk without first creating this very essence that we did not want. Because why we having these talks is because, yes, there is a tension that put us apart, that that put a roadblock between us, that we want to remove it. And so this one is actually not making us move ahead in the direction we want as a nation. So therefore, let come together. Let find what are the problems. So now we would stop not looking at this problem we are trying to intend to come and look at, but then we begin to look at, since he has been my opponent, I should not even give room, because if he come, or if I allow, if I go, all those then become a stumbling block for us to make headway, and that is why it is becoming a problem. So let look at the issue we initially accepted to come and try to find a solution for them. And then let's define those solutions and how to make sure that those solutions will really be implemented. Let's put guarantee for those solutions. And for sure, without us, by the time I assign you or you assign me or we assign each other, we know what exactly it is there for us. Whether we like it or not, we will know well. There will be accountability, there will be a reinforcing, provision that has been put, not because of me, that it was me being targeted. Right. It was put there because it needed this peace to move on.
Now, the revitalized peace agreement is talking about 35% women representation, something that seems like many parties have actually violated in its execution or implementation. Now, Tumaini is here. How do you want to see Tumaini reinforces that, especially the commitment to the implementation of 35% or even more of women representation in general, gender equality?
Okay. With regard to 35% and 65%, first of all, RC's principle of inclusivity, it is a key here, where political parties, the stakeholders, all that has a stake. By the way, when we talk about the stakeholders, normally we look at the civil society. But when we, in natural fact, when we talk about the stakeholders, should involve all of us, the political parties, the women, the civil society, etc. Tumaini came and recognized this importance of inclusivity. And that is why the whole out group, those who have already accepted the process, who are involved in the process, those that are still out there and that has not yet joined, we should encourage them to come in and join. The government, which are the political body, the women, the civil society, we are all here. This principle is being met in this platform, which then should give us the opportunity also to address the issue that being faced within the implementation of 35%. Now, to me as Sarah, and I believe also many South Sudanese women understand that 35% women quota in the power sharing, in the implementation of peace agreement has not yet been implemented. Some argue, and I tell them no, unless we fail to understand what 35% mean. the 35% was provided as a women quota. This is to emancipate the women from the being marginal of the marginalized. Okay, as Dr. John said it was initially in 2005 provided to women as 25%, and a crooked kind of a mechanism or a model was put in place to ensure that women are involved. But in natural fact, if this has been said, this is for women, it has to be women should manage it. You can tell this is for Sarah, and you are managing it for me and deciding it for me.
You can manage it yourself.
And you call it is mine. Where is my ownership here? How am I controlling it here? It is you deciding and decide when you give it to me, and you decide when you don't want to give it to me. I think this should be put very clear this time around in Tumaini to address the shortcoming of the provision, that there should be a framework that defining clearly to distinguish it from women who are participating in the 65%, because remember, the 35%, it is at least this is for women. But women are allowed to compete in the 65%. So to me, I believe that the women who are currently in the government are the women who have the capacity 65%. But actually the 35% has not yet been implemented because one, it is not yet being managed by women. Women have no say to those women. They have no say who should come. If they are wrong or they need to be held accountable, women cannot hold them accountable. If they are being abused, being seen as these are supposed to be vulnerable, that are supposed to be whose rights are supposed to be violated, women can come into their defense. For example, I can bring the recent relief of the governor of the Western Barghazal, Sarah Akile. First of all, when she was appointed, women have no say, has no bet, have no, have any say about it, whether the research should go to Western Barghazal and why Sarah Akile, they never have a say. And why should it be Ayo even? Women has no say. So it was Ayo said, okay, we have to bring our women, and they bring their one woman, and one as a governor and one woman as a deputy governor. Then it was Ayo also who said, well, I think we have our time as an organization. We have to relieve. Did we have a say as women? Of course not, because that seat belonged to Ayo, and it is the right of Ayo who to put when and how. It is the right of Ayo.
Had no say about,
and even the woman that has been appointed, knows very right who the appointing authority is and which appointing authority in which she has the right to report to and adhere to their principle and objective.
So what's your point here?
So my point here is that the 35% has not yet been implemented. If it was to be implemented today, as we speak, out of all the 82 commissioners across South Sudan, we were supposed to have 29 county commissioners. Today we only have 2 county commissioners in Western Equatoria. This tells you that this is the women, these are the women who are participating in the 65%. Okay, so the 35% has not yet been implemented, because once it is implemented, our position would be categorically clear that this is the women's share.
So how do you want Tumaini to put that into perspective? I mean, to real implementation without any violation?
These are now the gaps that should be realized in the process of Tumaini, because Tumaini is supposed to identify the gaps of the provision within the RCS that are not being implemented. Why are they not being implemented? Why are they not being achieved? We need a peace that is all South Sudan. South Sudan should be in peace. Why are we not having peace? Why are we still having, different group of arms within the same country, where all the arms should be under one government? Let's unite all the arms. These are the gaps that Tumaini is supposed to see. Okay, why forces are not being unified? What are the problems? What are the challenges? Let's address that.
Wow.
So it's not like providing a new agreement, but it is to identify what are the shortcomings. Why are we still having the rebels Why? What are the grievances? Let address, because within the RCs there is accountability, there is reparation, there is compensation and all that, so that the grievances are addressed. There is a power sharing that all the implementation, all South Sudanese should be, you know, included. Everybody should come on board.
There are talks, Sarah Nyanath, on whether Tumaini should be complementary to the revitalized peace agreement, should find the shortfalls or the loopholes in the revitalized peace agreement to reinforce it or strengthen it. And other talks also about Tumaini should be an annex to the revitalized peace agreement, and also should be a standalone agreement. What's your take on all these different views, Sarah, as an activist?
Okay. I think Tumaini should not be a standalone agreement. Should be a complementary, okay, to the RCs. Should be an annex to the RCs, because once the areas that are identified, defined, and solution provided for, then should be annexed. Yeah, because this is going to be the way in which RCs now should be implemented, because it is proven, even the Artigonus knows, even with the stakeholders, or you call us the CSOs or women, we all know, even the grantors and the partners knows that, yes, the completion of the implementation of RCs is overdue. And if it is overdue, should we say, okay, is it better for us to say, okay, RCs has collapsed? Should it be? Even the Artigonus know the danger that it have. It is, if it is announced that it has collapsed, then what next? Then we will have a stateless people. You know, we have no government. So RCs should be to rescue. Actually, is a rescuer. I mean, the Tumaini is the rescuer of the RCs. So if you are sick and there should be a solution. Normally, you go to a doctor so that they identify what is the problem. We know, yes, you are alive. Yes, you are alive, but you look very sick.
So Tumaini should be a medicine or a remedy to the revitalization. But then there are concerns from the opposition that all the agreements from 1972 from Addis Ababa, you come to a number of agreements, including peace agreement and then being revitalized. There is no agreement that has been an annex to another agreement. Why should Tumaini be an annex to the revitalized peace agreement?
Well, if they say that there has not been annex to the agreement, there was no any agreement called RCs to begin with. And we should not confuse between a South Sudan that was then hoping to have a different state altogether, like now we seceded, and RCs, where we are not saying there is a group which want to break away from the rest of South Sudan. We need to differentiate about this. Second, RCs itself, it did not just the provision within the agreement. It is not bad. The problem is the implementation. What is the new thing that the opposition group is going to bring? For example, they said, okay, fine. If they are not going to negotiate with and agree with what is in the RCs, what is it that they are going to bring anew that is not in the RCs? One. Second, what are their guarantees? That if, okay, said, okay, let's leave it for you. How are they, if they are not going to negotiate with the government, how are they going to make sure that they bring the difference? Because if they were having this power to make that difference just direct like this, they would have already done it. They wouldn't have wanted to engage in negotiation. I think because each party should be cognizant of their shortcomings and their challenges, except that, and as I said it earlier, you as Emmanuel, came to recognize you have your challenges. Me as I came to recognize I have my challenges, and we said, let try to, you know, to see address this challenge, because these challenges are actually pulling us to the grave. So let address so that we move the country forward. It is not about the groups or the government. It is about the people of South Sudan, the citizen in general.
Right. Thank you very much, Sarah Nyanat. We had this brief conversation this morning for about 20 minutes. Al-Hadi Hawari, live broadcast from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Tumaini Initiative. Sarah Nyanat, the civil society activist and the executive director. She's the executive director of representing women also of Gender Equality South Sudan Organization. We'll continue to have you every now and then here from Tumaini. Thank you for your time. Al-Hadi Hawari, درجة لك الميكروفون للأخبار باللغة الإنجليزية.
Thank you. Thank you.
الليلة أنا ولو نيلسون.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Joseph Akile there.
You tuned in and locked on to the eye of South Sudan, and it's a brand new dawn.
Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, good morning. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. The UN Children Agency UNICEF says vaccinations have begun in Rang County of Upper Nile State in response to the cholera outbreak in South Sudan. The U.S. Embassy in Juba has reiterated its call on the transitional government to start using public revenue transparently to address the public needs. And elsewhere, police in South Korea are raiding the presidential office following last week's attempt by President Yoon Suk Yeol to impose martial law in the country. These stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Lasuba Memo, and now the news in detail. The UN Children Agency UNICEF says vaccinations have begun in Rang County of Upper Nile State in response to the cholera outbreak in the country. According to UNICEF, since 28th of October 2024, a total of 2,184 cases and 31 deaths have been reported, about 37% of them children. The first of the cholera cases were reportedly imported from neighboring Sudan, where an outbreak had affected over 40,000 people. Since April 2023, more than 880,000 people have fled Sudan and sought refuge in South Sudan, with many arriving through the border crossing in Rang County. The life-saving vaccination campaign, which started yesterday, is targeting some 150,000 people in Rang County. UNICEF also revealed that over 1 million more vaccine doses are on the way to reach people across the country, including the capital, Juba. It said this effort is part of a wider campaign involving the government, UN agencies, non-governmental organizations and partners focused on delivering healthcare, clean water provision and hygiene promotion. UNICEF cited Health Minister Yolanda Well-Deng as saying these vaccinations are vital to protect the population, and she called upon the public, health professionals and community leaders to make the campaigns a success while taking every possible measure to prevent the spread of the disease. Meanwhile, Ms. Anita Kiki Beho, the UN humanitarian coordinator for South Sudan, said the UN is committed to working closely with the government of South Sudan to ensure inclusive coordination, clear public communication and transparent data sharing, especially for the effective preparedness, readiness and response. The U.S. Embassy in Juba has reiterated its call on the transitional government to start using public revenue transparently to address the public needs. Ambassador Michael J. Adler emphasized the need for South Sudan's leaders to start demonstrating political will to put the interest of their people first. According to him, the American people have long understood and supported the aspirations of the South Sudanese people for peace, freedom and development to achieve their country's great potential. Citing the nation's $700 million in financial assistance for the South Sudanese over the course of the financial year that just ended, and the more than $640 million in humanitarian assistance alone, the diplomat said South Sudanese people have the right to expect their government to take the steps necessary to reverse the long-standing trend of increased humanitarian need and to end aid dependency. He stated that the American people want to see the transitional government start taking the steps necessary to create an environment that is conducive for both effective development assistance and responsible private investment. These steps, he said, include upholding human rights and holding those who violate these rights accountable. Additionally, meeting peace commitments and creating conditions necessary to make the current extension of the transitional period the last one, ending with credible and peaceful elections without further delay. He went on to state that these steps must include the transparent use of public revenue to appropriately pay for salaries, public services, humanitarian response, and other basic needs. Ambassador Michael Jedler made their remarks on the occasion of the International Human Rights Day yesterday. He further said that the U.S. government's conviction is that the South Sudanese people should have a government that is accountable to them through elections and that uses public revenue appropriately and transparently. In his concluding remark, the diplomat said that the time is long overdue for the South Sudanese people to enjoy the universal rights. The chairperson of the Anti-Corruption Commission is encouraging the transitional government to fund the institution to enable it fight corruption in the country. Ngor Kolong Ngor made the call during a workshop organized to mark the International Anti-Corruption Day observed annually on 9th of December. He said the fight against corruption in the country is being frustrated by a lack of funding and the continued protection of corrupt officials. Ngor underlined the challenges his office faces and called for urgent action to address these issues. He explained how corruption has harmed the country, with public funds meant for services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure often stolen or misused. According to him, the Commission struggles to carry out its work due to limited funding and an ongoing impunity for corrupt practices. Ngor said that many corrupt officials are still not punished for their actions, making the fight against corruption even harder. Ngor praised President Salva Kiir for signing anti-corruption laws, but added that more must be done to enforce them. This is iRadio Morning News. And now to the international scene. Zambia's top court has barred former President Edgar Lungu from standing for re-election in 2026. The Constitutional Court ruled that the 68-year-old politician had already served the maximum 2 terms allowed by law. Lungu was first elected president in January 2015 to serve the remaining 20 months of his predecessor's term. President Michael Sata had died in office in October 2014. Lungu had argued that this should not count as he did not serve a full 5-year term, but the court disagreed, reversing previous rulings that had cleared him to run 3 years ago when he lost to Hakainde Hichilema. Last month, Lungu was picked by the opposition Tons Alliance to be its presidential candidate in the 2026 elections to challenge President Hichilema. Their choice of Lungu came a year after Zambia's government withdrew his retirement benefits and privileges following his decision to return to active politics. Finally, police in South Korea are raiding the presidential office following last week's attempt by President Yoon Suk-yeol to impose martial law in the country. The president and his allies are currently facing insurrection charges, and a travel ban has been slapped on several of them. South Korea's ex-defense minister, who took responsibility for the declaration, has attempted to commit suicide in detention. A Justice Ministry official has told the parliament. President Yoon had apologized for the attempt but has not accepted growing calls for him to step down. Last weekend, an attempt to impeach the president failed after members of his own ruling party boycotted the vote, but opposition members are set to hold another impeachment vote this weekend and have vowed to hold one every Saturday until Yoon is gone. This is iRadio Morning News, and to end this bulletin, here is a recap of the headlines. The UN Children Agency UNICEF says vaccinations have begun in Rang County of Upper Nile State in response to the cholera outbreak in the country. The U.S. Embassy in Juba has reiterated its call on the transitional government to start using public revenue transparently to address the public needs. And police in South Korea raiding the presidential office following last week's attempt by President Yoon Suk-yeol to impose martial law in the country. That's the end of iRadio Morning News. If there is a story or an event you would like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message at +2 192 It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba. Like our Facebook page iRadio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at the top of the hour. I am Nasuba Memo. Thank you for listening.